It didn't happen for them, but it's not like Kilruane will come up against the type of hurling they've never seen before.
Yeah, similar kind of style. Similar enough kind of profile physically, I'd say as well. Like they're not like you'd say Ballygunner probably aren't the most physically imposing style. They impose their game on the match, but maybe they're not the most physically imposing team. They're just so fit, so organised, use the ball so well, create so much space inside for their danger men. They can hurt you from outside as well. So yeah, listen, I don't think they're jumping in against into a completely different world on Sunday. I'll put it that way. But there are a couple of things to it as well, Shane. I think somehow again Ballygunner, after getting another home game, whether it's Fratterfield or Walsh Park, they've played some amount of Munster Club Championship games on home soil. That probably doesn't make it. That is another little percent maybe going against Kilruane. But there's definitely, and I know you'll go into it a bit more here, there's definitely some interesting matchups looking at the game, and maybe some potential areas where they could get some joy.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the matchups here, and I'm only trying to figure out who I think will mark who as we're going along here. And look, obviously this isn't an exact science. I'm just kind of trying to guess, will Cian O'Kelly be playing? He obviously didn't even do the warm-up on Sunday because of his ankle. Will Seamus Hennessy, who have wearing number 5 there but could be wearing number 13, will he start there? Will Niall O'Mara be okay? Obviously it is hamstring bandaged up midway through the game. Jack Peters, he's been carrying a hamstring injury, and he was furious when he was brought off the other day. Hopped his helmet off the ground. And then I'm wondering, the obvious matchup, the first matchup you have to talk about is who goes on Desi Hutchinson. And if Craig Morgan was playing, he'd be the guy you'd say would go on him. I presume you'd agree with that. And because of how Aaron Morgan has been playing since he was moved back down the field, I'd be surprised if it wasn't him. Because, again, Jack Peters, he's had that hamstring issue, and I don't think he moves across the turf as quickly as Aaron Morgan anyway. Now, maybe you could look at Hogan or Cleary. I think maybe they'd be a matchup for Fitzgerald or Hutchinson. But to me, the number one matchup you look for is how do we stop Desi Hutchinson if he can be stopped at all? And I think Aaron Morgan, to me, is the most likely. And after that, if you can have Niall O'Mara, hopefully he's good to go. Maybe him up against Pádraig Mahoney. Maybe Kilruane feel that they can get some bit of joy there. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think Aaron Morgan has that type of profile that could, it's going to be very difficult to stop Desi, but to minimize the damage, I suppose. He's quick, he's nimble, he's good on the ball.
Good anticipation.
Good anticipation as well. And like when you're marking Desi, it's one thing, having the speed to match him. It's another thing. I'll put it this way, Shane. If I always think it's gas in training. You could have, just say, you'd have me and you running together, we'll say beside each other, and you might have two young lads beside each other. And like if we're running to 50 meters, like you're not that fast. I'm not that fast. No, all right.
I burn you.
If we go to 50 meters, the two boys are going to dust us. There's no point in saying any difference. But if you throw a ball in there and it's an anticipation of when the delivery is coming, the cuter head, and Aaron Morgan is only a young fella, obviously, but he does have very good anticipation kind of skills. Like there's a fella hurled with Burr, Brian Hennessy. He used to win all the sprints, and he was not the fastest, but he used to anticipate the whistle brilliantly.
Yeah.
But the anticipation skills is very important, particularly when you're marking someone like Desi. Like you're not good. There's no one probably faster than him in the country, realistically, former professional soccer player. But if you can at least anticipate and get that yard and at least not be on the back foot, you have some sort of a hope. And I think Niall O'Mara probably sitting back. I think like the idea of him going forward against Ballygunner is going to be unlikely, I would say, or less likely. And he's going to have to play more a defensive role if he's going to be there, because they're going to be trying to defend, particularly what's inside in that dangerous inside line.
Yeah, I've heard it said about certain soccer players who aren't the paciest but always get there. Never the quickest but always left on time, which is a nice way of putting it.
There you go.
Like at times, actually, Niall O'Mara ended up in his fullback line the other day because with the little bit of switching going on and obviously his hamstring injury, he had to sit back a bit more. And you know yourself, sometimes you can get through a game, but then the hamstring might flare up later in the week. Now, we'll hope that his actually improves as the week goes on.
It's funny you should say that, Shane, because I know you played you played a Senior B final a couple of years ago, didn't you? With half a hamstring, I would say, or you came on in it. There are certain games that you will get away in it, and I never forget playing a game out in Banner 4 or 5 years ago, and like I was on 60% of a hamstring, and they put whoever we were playing put a mulliker in on top of me, and I was like, literally, like, this is brilliant. If they put the nippy corner forward in, I was gone. because even the runs he was making, false runs, I was gone. So kind of you can get away with it on a given day. Ballygunner will go after him, I'd imagine. There's no point in saying any different. They'll go, like Pádraig Mahony would generally play there. I would anticipate someone who will move even more than him, potentially going out to centre forward and being a headache, even more of a headache for Niall O'Meara, and making him track runs where, you know, the player in question mightn't even be getting the ball. Someone like a Mikey Mahony or a Kevin Mahony would be an absolute nightmare, just darting left, darting right, and could take a lot of juice out of Niall O'Meara even 25 minutes into the game.
Yeah, like the more you go through it, ultimately you run out of matchups for Kilruane, and I think you are going to be struggling to see where they're going to get enough scores. They will need goals. So Cian O'Kelly, assuming he's okay, he's going to have to be a battering ram. They're going to have to get the ball into Jerome Cahill, and maybe he'll move out the field and somebody else will move in at times as well. But they're going to have to get the ball in his hand. Willie Cleary, as he tends to do, is going to have to knock over every free. And Cian Darcy, like last Sunday, he's going to have a day of days. And by the way he finished, especially that second goal at the end of the game, like he hit it and you expect it to sort of, you know, like the way most guys hit a shot and it goes into the top corner, arrows in, but it flashed in. It was like, that was a real proper strike of a ball. And when you think of players who flash the ball into the back of the net, who else comes to mind? I mean, Joe Canning would obviously come to mind. There's got to be a few out there, but who comes to mind for you? TJ Reid, obviously.
Owen Kelly would definitely be one. Remember that one against Cork a few years ago? It was Cork.
Yeah, 08.
Where he threw one of the defenders aside. Can't remember who it was, and it like Cusack was where he was supposed to be, and you know you're looking behind you, looking for the ball because it flashes in that quickly. There's probably a couple more, but he would definitely be the one where if he got a shot away, it was generally a bullet.
Yeah, and it really was good from Cian Darcy, but he's going to need to have a big game. And I think that midfield of Ballygunner that we talk about a fair bit over the last few years, Conor Sheehan and Paddy Levy, they are two workhorses. But you'd have to say that Sean McAdams and Mark O'Neill have been really good on the other side for Kilruane. And it's just going to have to be a day of days for Kilruane, I think, if they're going to put it up to Ballygunner here. But look, ultimately, given the walking wounded that they have, and they don't have Craig Morgan, and you know that Ballygunner have had a long time to size themselves up for this game, and they have a lot of county players there, it is really hard to look beyond Ballygunner here, isn't it?
Yeah, Shane Power is an interesting comment in there. Do you not think the game being in Walsh Park rather than Thurles actually suits Kilruane better? Smaller pitch, less space for Ballygunner forwards. Yeah, potentially. I'll tell you why I'd say
no. Because they're a team that's trying to get themselves right just a week after winning the county title and a few days of being on the beer and all that kind of stuff. The extra 2.5 hours to get from Kilruane down to Walsh Park means you're going to have to wake up that bit earlier, get used to unfamiliar surroundings. I just think Thurles would be more familiar, and it's a half hour out the road.
If Walsh Park was on their doorstep, I'd say yes. But the travelling thing, and it's just, I don't know what time the game is on. I presume it's 2 or half 2 on Sunday.
I think it's 1:30.
Yeah, it could be 1:30. I'm actually going down covering it myself, but it's just like you'll have to be up. You'll have to have the breakfast got at a very, very early hour, and then you're on the road and moving. The dimensions of the pitch will suit them better. The travel and everything else involved definitely won't.
Yeah, I have a quick